How you been, man? I wanted to talk to you about movies, commercials, and everything in between. What do you think is the main reason why most of those, the lighting and the picture kind of sucks, especially when you're starting out?
Even if you have all the time and resources available, I would say, there's also like planning, if you're working on it by yourself or you're working like making your own content at home, if you spend more time like actually planning out where you're going to put things or how things are going to be, or even just making like a simple lighting plan about like where you want this light to be, or what the look needs to be. You just taking that extra pre-production time. Or if you're going to shoot like something like what we're shooting today, if you spend more time figuring out like, okay, this is what I need or I need it to look like, and then maybe you do like a pre-light, and then when it comes time to actually shoot, you have everything kind of set up in place and you spent that extra little bit of time just dialing things in, then you're going to be more successful in your shoot day. And a lot of times people don't give extra time for lighting, so they end up having to kind of start from scratch whenever their actual shoot day is. So sometimes that might involve like bringing the lights out of the vehicle or the truck, and then having to walk through with the gaffer and the key grip and figure out where to put them and come up with a lighting plan on the day. And
Instead of doing it in advance.
And that kind of like robs you of your creative shooting time, because you have to put a lot of time and energy into thinking about just coming up with that plan of how it's going to look, and then that takes away from the actual shoot.
I think something that happens a lot is that we want to show up and almost be creative on the spot and be good on the spot.
Yeah.
The planning part, I don't enjoy it very much, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I love to show up and almost feel in that moment what that requires. I think whenever you and I have worked together on music videos or commercials or anything like that, you always want to see like pictures of the location.
Yeah.
You want to go in advance, which is great. I think I agree with you. It definitely helps you a lot. But let's say you're in a pinch, because most productions, like I call it, hey, are you available like in 2 days? Like we
Come
have
right
to
now.
do this.
Yeah.
So what is your process when you show up? What is your process? Like, what are the first things that you look at and that you try to put in place, like kind of step by step? How do you do it?
If I have like limited information going into the job,
Yeah, let's say
I
you
just show
came
up.
in, you show up, you have your small package, and then you have a room. For example, we did a music video that we shot in this big house, and we had that. The opening scene was the guy waking up, and we needed sunset, and it was like cloudy and ugly outside. What's your first thing that you put in place?
The first thing, if I don't have like a location scout or I don't really know the layout of the building, is really just to kind of spend a few minutes with my crew and my people, my director, whoever, and just walk around the space and just see, where does the natural light come from? Where are their windows? What is the block, the environment? How does it, can you move through the environment? Where do the actors need to go? Where can things play out? If they stand here, how are they going to look? And just look around, just explore. That's like the first like 10-15 minutes of just like getting to a place. Before I take anything out before I build any lights, it's just exploring and just seeing, looking around. Oh, maybe I can mount a light here. Maybe this will look nice. Just kind of exploring, figuring things out. And then I can start to kind of make a plan based on like, the vibe of the video. What is it supposed to look like? Is it supposed to be like high-key Disney commercial? I need lots of like this. Is it a romantic Latin music video? Like, well, what's the vibe of the thing? And then I can start kind of making decisions on what units and how I want them to be shaped and whatever.
What's your go-to like light that you kind of build first, and with that? Because for me, I try to figure out where my key is coming from.
Yeah, definitely the key light that's why it's called your key light. It's going to be the first light that's going to key your actor.
So what are you rocking these days? Are you going for like the sky panel? Or are you playing with some aperture? What's in your bag?
Well, it depends again on what you're shooting,
Ideal scenario.
and
if you
also
could
what
pick your
camera you're
favorite.
shooting on.
So ideal scenario, you can pick what's the camera you would pick, and I want us to get into cameras and argue about that a little bit. What's your ideal camera and lens combo that you would start with, and then what light would you bring to get the party started?
The light, I've been using the 1200D a lot from Aperture. It's a very powerful light. I've been doing a lot of like slow motion stuff and like high frame rate, you know, where even working with probe lens, you need, when I was in a studio, small studio like this, and I had 4 of them, and it was like not enough light.
You have 4 1200Ds. And
Yeah,
it's
so it's
not
the
enough.
equivalent of like 2 M40s, and it wasn't enough light to shoot really detailed stuff with the probe light, 1,000 frames a second. So it really depends on the situation, you know, like
Yeah.
you can't say like one light, you know, different gigs, different rigs. I
Mhm.
always say that, you know, so it depends on the gig, what you need, what camera you have. If you're shooting Sony, maybe it's, you know, a lot, you know, more sensitive to light. You can push the ISO and it's not really a problem, you know. Um, what
So
lenses are you on? You know, that really
Yeah.
depends on a lot of things.
So with cameras, we switched to Sony, especially for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you have your Blackmagic, which I had a Ursa too.
Yeah, big fan of Blackmagic.
Yeah, I love it, but my Blackmagic, it just got fried. Like the sensor died, then it was, I don't know, and it was also very clunky. So when I'm
Mhm.
looking at the future, their 12K camera, I was super excited about
Yeah.
it, but then I wasn't, when I saw the footage, it looked good, but it looked too much like video. So what's your take on, like, why are you going with Blackmagic for your like own personal?
Yeah, for myself, I have 6K Pro. I work with a lot of Blackmagic cameras for a few of my clients. Um, I shoot on everything though. I shoot on Red, on Area, whatever, Sony, Canon. It's like I said, depends on what the job is. But for myself, to what I would put my money into, it's just a more versatile camera
Why?
for production, for video production, film production.
Okay.
If you are somebody who's like a hybrid shooter, content creator, and you need to do stills and you need to have like fast workflow, maybe you work by yourself, then I would say maybe not your best thing. But for me, I always have lights and usually a crew, if not 2 to 3 other people that are helping me. So I know that that camera can do well in an environment where I'm able to give it enough light to the sensor. And I know that I'm going to have sound pumping in, or I'm going to have external person working with sound, probably some set design. You know, like I know the environments that I'm
Yeah.
using that camera in.
Because they
And
do
it can do
struggle.
well.
They do struggle with the low light. That's the one thing with like Blackmagic. You need to feed it like enough light.
So do Reds.
Yeah, that's true. But I think Red has gotten better
Yeah.
in the last few years.
Yeah.
Red has gotten better with that. And the noise, maybe I'm crazy, but I
Yeah.
feel like the noise on a Red is prettier to look at than
The
the
noise
noise
on
on a
a-
Blackmagic.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because on my Blackmagic, I was getting the grid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you had that. Like
Blocky, like compression. Yeah.
it was like you could see almost like the way the sensor is built. You could see these lines
Oh, I
like
never
as a
experienced-
grid. I don't know if it was my camera specifically that
Yeah.
had those problems. When the ISO was pushed like 1600, I could never shoot 1600 on that Blackmagic.
Yeah, mine specifically has dual native ISO, so I can push 400 or I can do 3200.
I
So
didn't have that.
I can go into a whole nother bracket of ISO.
Okay.
And once I get up above into 3200, it becomes clean again, like resets. So you need to understand also what your camera can do. I can shoot low light. I can go out and shoot 3200, no lights out in the street, and I can get clean images, but I need to be at very high ISO. And
Okay.
still I'll put like a little tube light or something, you know. You never want to like starve your sensor of light. If there's always an opportunity to help it out a little bit, then it's you're always going to get a cleaner image, even if you need to bring it down a little in post.
Yeah. Now I love what you were saying about if you're a content creator and you're doing things on your own and you need fast workflow versus working on a kind of pro environment. Do you really see a difference when you're using that camera and you have you have a gaffer, a swing, and you have a couple lights, you have more time, you have diffusion.
Yeah.
Do you really get something else extra out of that sensor and that combination when you compare it to shooting on your own with one of this? Like, I think Sony, what they did with the camera that made me do the switch was this FX3.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's like with that camera, I get the same quality I was getting with my Blackmagic, kind of better. I had an older Blackmagic, but I'm getting the same quality, as good as a Red Komodo. And I don't need to feed it that much light. It's lighter package. So I almost get the same. So do you feel that there's actual an extra gain in quality or the look or anything when you're shooting with an Arri and you have the more people and all of that? Because I'm kind of in the middle. Like I love a big crew. I love to walk in and have like 10 people and everyone is like adding a little bit.
Yeah.
But lately I'm almost sometimes I feel like, yeah, we do all of this and then the pictures look not that much different from if I had like only two people.
It's about your workflow too. Like one of the reasons I really like shooting Blackmagic, the 6K Pro, and then also the Ursas and stuff like that. They all have internal ND filters. And that's a huge thing to be able to control light, is being able to have ND filters and be able to quickly change them. And if you're by yourself, you don't have an AC with the matte box and the lens filters, and it's incredibly difficult to manage that by yourself.
And these are
clicking a button and I got exposure, let's go. That saves a ton of time and also keeps your gear clean, and like that's really good. With Sony's are great, but you have to screw a filter to be able to stop down. They're also the user interface, I feel like, of Blackmagic. All their cameras, all their gear, their switchers, their software, their everything that they make is very easy to follow. Like anybody who's a complete beginner to our industry can really jump on with Blackmagic stuff and just get up and running without having to like have so much knowledge about what's going on. It's like very plug and play. It makes sense. You open it up, you start looking through the menus, and it's like, oh, okay, I understand the settings. I understand how to get this camera up and rolling right away, and it's not like super complicated. With Sony, I just get buried in the menus. I know how to use Sony cameras, but even still, I open up the Sony cameras, FX9 or Venice or this one, and I'm just like,
so ugly.
I'm like, oh, this is like clunky. Why did some things don't also make sense why they're inside other menus?
Which is crazy because Blackmagic is a software company, but Sony is a massive software hardware company.
Yeah, they make TVs, they make all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
they make the video game consoles and all that.
PlayStations.
Somehow like they have the camera guys there in the basement of the company or something, like doing the menu. I don't know why it's so difficult. Red used to be my favorite menu system until I switched to Blackmagic, and then I think that I was like, hands down, it's like the cleanest of all the cameras.
Got it figured out.
Yeah, with Arri, I'm not like, I don't see their menus. Everyone always talked about, Arri is like more intuitive and
it's simple. Yeah, it's very simple.
It's simple, but it's not like, I think Blackmagic surpassed them.
They made it like you don't need to search for things, I feel like. And also with the button layout, you don't need to really search for things. I mean, Arri as well. If you have AC on the smart side of the camera, you can really control and dial things in really, really quickly. It's not like hard to understand. Or if you have the viewfinder, you can really just go through your settings pretty quick. I mean.
Now, how do you feel about buying and versus renting something? Because we have worked on a lot of different projects where we usually rent for those. When we had the big music videos, we brought the Arri with the Cook lenses, and we brought more things. But then you have your cameras that you own. I have some cameras that I own. What's your take on that?
I'm a big fan of renting all the time. Like I said, different gigs, different rigs. You should rent depending on what you need. Talk to the director, cinematographer, or if you're a cinematographer, figure out, what does this project need? Do we need to shoot super slow motion? Do we need a small camera that has high dynamic range that can mount on the front of a car? Maybe it is a Sony, maybe it is a Red Komodo, or does it need to go on a drone? Like what shot are we trying to go after? Does it need to be documentary? Does it need to live on a shoulder rig? Does it have to have ND filter? You start with what you're trying to achieve and then work backwards to find the tool.
Now, did you ever fall on that trap, which I felt like that at the beginning of my career, where I feel like if I don't own the camera, I'm not going to get the gigs. And also I feel like, if I buy this big red camera, I'm going to get so much more work. I'm going to get so many more clients. What's your take on that?
That's a good question. I feel like a lot of people are like, they go out just to get the red, and they have, I got this camera package and this and that. And it's like, I really feel like you're more valuable for what you know than what you own. It's what's in here that's really what people are hiring you for. and they're bringing you onto your projects because of the understanding and the experience that you have that you're able to bring to the crew, not specifically what you were able to put on your credit card and bring and order off Amazon or get to your house and look, I have all this kit. It's like, man, I could go rent all the kit. Tell me what you want to work with, and let's. And that's another thing is like I meet a lot of people that have fancy stuff. They have cool gear all the time, and it's like they don't quite have a full understanding of what their gear even does.
So their stuff looks like shit too.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, yeah, just because you have a fancy camera or a nice lens or whatever, it's like you really need to have a good understanding of how to use those tools properly to get what you want out of them. And really being like knowledgeable about all cameras and just broad topics about lighting, about sound, about whatever it is you're trying to go after for filmmaking is like more important than necessarily trying to have just the best gear. People always say like, oh, gear doesn't matter. It does matter.
To me, it matters
based on what you're trying to do. It matters. But there's also, you know, if you have certain limitations of what your budget is or what you're able to do, you can still make amazing things, but you just need to prioritize where you're going to put those resources. You know, if you can't put it all into the fast lenses, then put it into lighting. If you can't put it into, you know, whatever, one thing or the other, set design, then put it into audio, you know?
So building your own kit, if you had to start buying some things, what would you start with first?
Like just starting out.
Yeah, let's say starting out, because think about it, like people who are way ahead in their careers, like this video and this conversation, it's not even for people at our level. Yeah, I'm thinking of the kid that is young, starting out. Mm-hmm. What should they focus on building? Because it does add up. And like I have some pieces like that tripod. I bought that in 2014 and I still have it. Yeah. Like these cameras are all like new cameras that I bought recently because I switched from Canon to Sony, and I have Blackmagic and then I had Canon, and like I always wanted to buy a Red. So you kind of changed throughout time. What would you kind of start with and build your base for an independent, almost like a full-on, all-around content creator? Because nowadays, you have your feature film that you're working on. I have my feature film that I finished. Mm-hmm. I'm working on other scripts, but next month I'm gonna shoot like a big interview live stream setup for a big company, and then the next day I'm gonna do a music video, and then the next day I'm gonna do a podcast. So how would you kind of build now that we're making all kinds of content?
Yeah, if you're really like a generalist, like a jack of all trades, I would say get things that are good enough. Okay. They don't need to be the best at everything, you know?
So kind of spread it around instead of buying like a $20,000 camera.
Yeah, don't get Ari's signature primes and then you have a tripod that falls over because it can't hold the camera, you know? Don't get like the best light and then your lens only goes to 5.6, you know, or like you know what I mean, or like your sound is terrible, you know, don't even have a microphone, you know. Yeah, but so it's hard. Get enough level of production quality and spread out the resources. You know, that's what I say. Like, you know, I like to have, like you said, the gear does matter. If I'm gonna get a C stand, I want to have a good C stand that's gonna be solid. I can put my things on it and know that it's not gonna fall over. Know that it's gonna be strong. If I want to have a tripod, I want it to be good set of sticks that's gonna really support the camera, you know, or anything. You know, I want it to be, once you start to work on jobs and get paid for your time, you want to rely on your gear and also have it not break down on you, because then it's like they say, like, you know, buy nice or buy twice, you know. So it's like, oh, okay, it's kind of a hard hit.
Aren't you contradicting yourself there a little bit? It's like buy the low.
Well, yeah.
But then buy something nice that lasts.
It's gonna help you later on down the road if your stuff is, like I said, to a certain level. There's like beginner level, there's intermediate, and then there's like very advanced.
So let's do an intermediate.
So I would say intermediate. Don't overlook the beginner level things. You know, don't go right to the top on everything, and don't cut corners on the level 1. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very.
That's what I mean by it. You know.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I totally
buy nice. Don't buy amazing. You know.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Don't buy good enough. Buy good. Don't buy great. You can't afford great. That's gonna kill the budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
100% agree with you. I remember when I was first starting out, there was this director that I really looked up to. His name is Vincent Laforet.
Right.
I don't know if you have, you know of him. So I tweeted at him about this question of like buying versus renting.
Yeah.
So he said on the tweet, I remember clearly, he said, if you are going to rent it more than 6 times, buy it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
If you're going to use it less than 6 times, rent it. So that stuck out to me, and I've tried to apply that. But to be honest, like I'm a sucker for equipment and gear, so I end like you just want it and you just want to buy it. So I really, really love it. So I haven't been good at that, I don't think. But I agree with you. You have to kind of build your middle of the road basic kit. Now, do you feel that should you start going after the clients and the projects and then rent and then build, or should you try to save some money, build like a basic kit and then go after the gigs? How would you play kind of the business side of things, like in your experience working here in Hollywood? And
there's a lot of producers that I work with or have worked with over the years who don't own anything. They really get away with, or maybe they have like a few things, that they kind of like they've had to buy over the years of working, and they just kind of like hold on to them because they're just like a pack rat, and they're like, oh, this paper roll, I better hold on to it. You never know when we're gonna do another music video. I need a paper roll, or gaff tape, or whatever the thing that they ended up having to buy on their production. They keep it for whatever, but they don't have cameras, lenses, that like all the basic things you need for production. They rent those things out. And or they'll hire like a DP and he comes with his kit. They'll hire a sound person, they come with their bag.
But let's say for a cinematographer, like if you want to be a cinematographer,
a
what has
cinematographer
been your
different.
experience?
Cinematographer, like I said, I would start with a good camera, that's going to get you work. Because like I said, there's beginning, middle, and top level cameras. Don't even look at the bottom level cameras if you want to be serious about making a career. It's just gonna give you headaches. It's gonna fail on you. You're gonna have limitations, and it's gonna just make you look bad, and it's going to limit you in certain ways. And you're gonna have to upgrade right away to either this camera or a better camera, or have to end up renting because your camera can't do some things that you need to. It's gonna limit you. You're gonna be like, well, I can shoot X, Y, and Z, but I got this other project and my camera's no good for that, so I have to end up renting another thing. So you have a camera and you end up renting another camera all the time. What good is that one, So
now, what do you see the difference between being here in LA and being in other states? Because I know you were here, you went to somewhere else, and then you came back and had to like kind of rebuild again. Do you see a big difference between living in LA to grow in this career or being in another state?
Well, I used to live in Michigan, and I did a lot of like TV broadcast stuff in Michigan, and there's no like film industry really. They have like some, like they give you some grants and stuff. They want you to come and like shoot in Flint, Michigan, certain areas, Detroit. And like certain crews will go to those areas and like get shots and get things. And there are movies that are shot kind of all around, But this is the heart of where entertainment is made, and there's more content here at a higher level being produced. And people say, oh, you can go to New York, you can go to all these different places, like even all around the world. People in Brazil, there's content being made. People have cameras, people shoot stuff. There's TV stations, Germany, wherever, all over. Yeah. But everyone knows Hollywood. Everyone knows Los Angeles. It's the mecca. Yeah. It's the capital of what we do in this industry. And it's also a lot of equipment. If you are renting or you do need to find a specific thing for a specific project, it's very readily available.
Yeah, you do have everything.
You can go within 2 blocks or make a phone call and you get these resources or people who are able to crew up with you, and there's just a huge pool. And a lot of people get nervous with that. Like, oh, there's so many people doing exactly what I'm doing. How am I going to be able to stand out? Or there's too much competition. It's like, no, there's more videos being created now than there ever was in history, and that just means that there's more of a need for people who are creating content or directors of photography. You're in or editors. There's more videos being edited now than there ever was. Yeah, don't think of it as, oh, there's more competition. It's like, no, there's more work. Yeah. Like you have the pie has grown, you know?
Yeah. And with that, I agree with you 100%. I used to think a little bit like that when I first came to America.
Yeah.
You know, I was in film school and I was like inside of me a little jealous of like whatever other guy was like directing something because I wanted to be the director.
Right.
And then I realized, you know, these guys, I ended up like renting a camera from someone because I needed for something else, and he was also a director, and then we kind of became friends. And then other guys that were also directing, I kind of became friends with them, and then we all started helping each other with projects because, you know, you need more people. Like how many times I have to call you. I can shoot things, but whenever I have a real project, I call you to, can you come and be the DP? Can you come and like be the gaffer? Can you help me with this?
Yeah,
and
I do the same.
Instead of seeing people as competition, the sooner you realize that these people are actually your gateway to more work, you're going to be more open to talk about different things, help each other, borrow equipment, rent equipment from each other. And it's so sad to when you encounter people who are kind of closed off and they don't want to like give you the light or like show you like how they get this client or how they do this,
like a ego, and there's like competition. Like I do the same job as you do, and like I you know, like, oh, I don't want to get you into my world because these are my clients and I want you, or I do the hip hop music videos here, and it's like, bro, there's so many of those to go around. Why not we help each other? You know, it's like the same sort of thing. It's like I want to collaborate with other directors of photography because, you know, a lot of times if you are a DP, you never work with other DPs because you get onto a crew and you are that guy. Yeah. And there's only one of you. And then you get on another crew and then you're just like this. Yeah. Whereas if you're like a grip or someone else, production assistant, whatever, you work with many directors, many DPs, so you get to see their work over and over again, and you get to see like, okay, how did they do? What tricks did they do? How did they light the scene? So every shoot that you're on, you can learn from many different people and be like, okay, in this week or this month, I worked with 6 DPs or 6 directors, 6 gaffers, and I saw all the things that they did, and I can apply that to my own work. But when you are the gaffer, you're the key grip, you're the whatever, and you only do that specific job, you only have experience of what you do and how you interact with other people. And it's difficult unless you reach out to people who are your same, work with other gaffers, work with other DPs, whatever, and reach out to those same people and try to make a connection rather than like competing with them. Like, oh, like I don't want to tell them about how to set up their lighting company because I have my own lighting company. And it's like, no, well, maybe there's a sub rental that you need to, and you end up, they make money from you, or you can pass off a client to them, or maybe this shoot needs 2 DPs. Maybe you have 5 cameras and you need all the DPs in town. You need to hire all of them. If you don't have friends or connections with these people and you think of them as competition, then you're not going to be able to have a network to reach out to these people and bring them on your projects and collaborate and pool your resources to make things better.
Now, with that being said, you also have to be careful who you work with, and there's a lot of betrayal. We could say betrayal or backstabbing or like mouthing, however you say that in English, of like people talking shit about you behind your back. So how do you protect yourself from that? And have you had any like bad experiences that if you had known something different could have played different?
Yeah, I mean, just be genuine. Sometimes, it's not usually crew positions that I feel like are really problematic, because it's like, if you are not good at your job or you're weird or you do something, it's like you're probably just never going to get a call back, and it's like, I'm never going to work with that guy. He's kind of a weirdo guy, or he made a mistake and, that was his one chance or whatever. Yeah. But it's more of like the production company or the producer or the people who are creating the opportunities. If they are, I don't know how to say, if they're like just making a situation that's it's just not a good environment to work in. It's like you want to take the work because it's like, oh, I got to pay bills and things like that, but it's like you end up not wanting to work with these companies and production companies, even though you enjoy the work, but it's just it becomes a bad environment. You know, not necessarily like, oh, they're like toxic or whatever, but I don't know, I've just worked with certain people that they just don't manage their team very well, you know.
Well, what about this situation? And I wanted to talk to you about this. You and I have experience working on a project, and then we don't get paid. We don't get paid for
like
weeks.
that.
We don't get paid.
Example,
We don't get paid for months. I haven't figured out a way yet. I remember you and I were texting earlier this year, and I was like, "Fuck it, this year I'm not gonna take any project unless they pay me up front. I'm not gonna take any of these projects if they don't want to pay me my rate." Because man, I've worked with. It's not everyone, but I work with some people that they always want to cut down my rate. And I don't like, if I do that for me, then whenever I call you and everyone else, I have to do that to everyone. And I don't want to get into that habit of cutting people's rates. For me, I love it when I call you, you tell me your rate, and I'm like, yes. Not every project I'm able to do that.
Yeah.
But I try not to, like, I never want to squeeze you. Like if I'm telling you that I can't pay that, it's because I actually don't have it in the budget. But at the same time, you know, that's not your fault. So like, because I don't have the money doesn't mean that you should
have to cut my rate down to work with you. Yeah. Like I work with some ACs and they're very, very talented assistant camera people. And they have their gear and they have their toolkit and they have the knowledge and experience and they know how to, you know, they're just amazing. They're really good, right? But their rates are very high and they're always working. Their phone is ringing. They're booked every day, right? I have a couple different ACs that I try to reach out to that I want to work with every once in a while. And when I get a little bit of a budget, I try to call them and they're like my go-to people. But they're always booked. They're booked because they're good, right? And their rates are really high. And I make sure not to call them unless I have a project where I'm able to at least meet close to their day rate. You know, it's like their day rate is here and then I'm going to offer them like this amount of money. It's like they're doing me a favor just to like come out. You know, maybe they're losing money just to work with me, you know? And there's a lot of situations where I feel bad like reaching out to people with such low rates. And it's like it all kind of rolls downhill. And I feel like there's a lot of people, like you said, who are in that situation in production companies and things where like the client is like trying to lowball them so much and get like, oh, can you throw this in? Can you also do that? Can you? And they're like getting stretched, bro. Like how I have no, you know, you're not putting enough gas in the car and you want to go really far. Like give me some more resources to be able to have all these people come on your project and do things, you know. You have a 3-camera shoot and you only have 1 camera operator. It's like, get 3 camera operators if you want 3 cameras and you want them to be operated and in focus. And, you know, like to do things properly, you need to have the staff in place to really, to do it, you know, and that's their profession, you know. You should be able to pay these people what they deserve. And they have a whole career of getting all of the little tricks and little, you know, if you're you're a sound person, you have a little moleskin that you put on the lav and you know you have all your little tapes and all your little accessories and little tie downs and all that stuff costs money. Tape, you know, like people spend hundreds of dollars on their kit, you know, and it's like in one day they could, you know, it's like I make $300 but I spent $600 on my kit just to come to you and work today, you know.
And what you were saying about the knowledge and what people know, like right now when I jump on a project, it's not just how many hours I'm going to work. I've been doing this for like over 15 years. And I know if you put the camera there, it's not going to look that good. If you don't tell this person to come at this time, they're going to be late and then everything is going to get messed up. Like if you don't get enough of this, then this is going to happen. All of that and the experience that you have built out through the time. And also in your case and mine, your taste and style and the creative choices that you're going to make, that has a value. But I think it's really hard, even for ourselves, to realize that value and to ask for that. So how have you been able to make sure that you're saying what you're thinking and that you're asking for what you're worth?
Well, I have a specific rate in place, you know, and of course I do favors for people, and I still work for free. I've been doing this over 15 years. I still work for free every once in a while, you know, to help people or to build my portfolio or what, you know, whatever situation. Or I'll do things for discounted rates, or I'll bring, maybe I am getting my full rate, but I'll bring extra things.
Yeah,
That's
which
like
you have done for me.
that's another way. Like, oh, I'm making just my bare minimum rate, but I'll bring like another like $500 worth of stuff just to enhance the project to get it to where it should be. You know, if there's like other parts of the budget aren't there, or like I need another, maybe there's no room in the budget for an assistant or someone else to help with lighting or a grip. I'm gonna bring a grip just because I know we need a grip and I know we need someone to pull focus or whatever. And it's like, I'd rather have them and make a little less money than not have them and have the show not go as well, you know? Yeah. So I've gotten to a place also where I don't work by myself. I try never to work by myself. I always try to bring at least one other person to, you know, kind of have my back, you know, make sure, hey, he's over there, he's charging batteries, or like he handed off the media, or like, you know, your brain can only focus on so many things. That's why filmmaking is a team sport. There should be multiple people on set doing specific roles. And, you know, the smaller the crews get and the smaller the budgets get, you know, like content creators, they do sound, they run camera, they edit, they do all of the jobs, and it's cool to really understand all of them. But at a higher level, when there's money involved and things need to move quickly and you have a schedule, like really having specialized professionals in each role, it makes a huge difference, and it should be that way, you know?
Yeah. So now you're making the jump up to direct your first feature. You've been working on it for a while. How has that been different from being a cinematographer? I think I would love to talk about the difference between a cinematographer and a director. What do you like about each one, and like which one do you think you're gonna end up picking long term?
Oh, well, I'm a cinematographer for sure. People ask me all the time, oh, you don't want to direct this and that. It's like, I am directing my own film because otherwise it won't get made, you know? And I actually brought on a director to help me with the film. Because like I said, it's a team sport. I don't work alone, you know? Yeah. So even if I'm the director and I'm coming up with these concepts and stuff, and if I'm at home and I'm doing the pre-production, when I get on set, I'm still in the technical role. I'm still with the camera. I'm still trying to set up sound. There's a, you know, documentary, it's like real kind of run and gun, but I still want to bring a director with me, and he's got his you know, the questions. We're going to do an interview. He's got all the questions written out. You know, I'm behind the camera and he's interviewing the person, and he's keeping them, pulling out the emotions from people. So it's like, he's like my assistant director, you know, he's stepping in. I tell him ahead of time, this is what I'm trying to achieve. And that person kind of like vicariously like helps me to achieve that, because I can't direct and do the technical at the same time.
Why didn't you hire someone and do the opposite? Bring on someone to do the camera.
Oh, and to be the technical?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, that's a good question. So like I step into the director role and then have someone just do the technical role. Because when I started this project, it was, I do a lot of projects for other people. And it's kind of like, you know, I'm making a commercial, or I'm making a music video for a song for an artist, or I'm making whatever it is. And it's always energy going out for other people, other things and whatever. And I wanted this to be more of like coming in my own self, you know, like my own art, you know, like an artist, you paint a picture and they're like, wow, that looks great. And they're like, I'm just going to keep it because it looks great and I like it. But if you're doing it for something else, you're like, oh, this looks great. And you're like, I have revisions. Let's make that flower yellow. Let's make that, let's bring that down a little bit and rotate it.
Well, that's why I'm curious why you didn't bring someone to do the camera work so you could focus on only the directing. It's like, in a way, you want to direct and get your movie out.
Yeah.
But you also want to keep control of the camera and like how it looks and all that. And
because I do want the look to be my style.
That's the curse of like loving cameras.
Yeah, well, because I want my signature at the bottom of it, you know? I want
Yeah.
my hand, my vision to be shaped the way I want it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many times where people will tell me, oh, we got to do it this way. We got to shoot on this camera. We got to shoot from this angle. We got to light it this way. He's got to say this. It's got to have this tone. It's got to have this.
Yeah.
And I get all these notes and all these voices.
Yeah.
And I just want to be like, this is my project. This is
Yeah.
my thing.
That's
You know?
that's why I can be a cinematographer.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in film school, this was I think 2012 or 2013. One of my friends, he was directing, so he wanted me to shoot it, and I was the cinematographer on the project.
Yeah.
Halfway through it, I was like, never again in my life I'm gonna be a DP for someone else.
Yeah.
Because of what you were saying.
It's challenging. You're in a role where you are a servant. You need to think
Yeah.
of yourself as a servant.
I couldn't handle with that.
Yeah.
And I think I can do, like, to be a good leader, you have to know how to follow.
Mm-hmm.
I think in that situation, because I was following someone that didn't have a great vision, execution, and leadership, and like someone that we just didn't agree in our creative taste.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
put it that way.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's all up down to taste. With film, it's subjective. Where you're gonna love something, I'm gonna love something completely different. So I don't think it's fair to say, oh, that person was bad. Like usually we go straight to say, oh, they were bad, unless sometimes people are really they suck. But for the most part, it's just we have different tastes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And knowing myself, I personally need to have control over this is the final piece. And that's why I have to be a director. I can't be.
Yeah, I get it.
But I think you enjoy having that control, but focusing on the look and the cinematography side.
Yeah, yeah.
So would you pick cinematography, long-term cinematography over directing?
Yeah, for sure.
Why?
For me. Because I feel like I'm more of a technical person. Also, cinematography has a lot to do with lighting. I work also as a gaffer, and gaffing and cinematography DP is kind of like they're very like that relationship between those two roles is very tight, and I feel, the director will give you broad information like I want a happy look, and you're like, what the heck does that mean? That's it's very esoteric.
Yes.
Or like I want it to look dramatic or cinematic. Okay, but that doesn't translate into numbers.
Well, you
or
are
specific things.
And that's where your art comes in.
Yeah.
You are the translator.
Yeah.
From the tone and style that the director wants.
I
to
take
numbers.
what's in their head and I have to communicate that to my crew to be able to bring out their vision.
Yeah, it was hilarious. Like we were setting up for the podcast, and I'm asking Scott like what he thinks about the light and stuff. He pulls out the little app with the meter to know how many stops of light we need inside. I'm like, I just want it to look good, you know. But I think that's a beautiful ability that when you get to shine in like your technical side is amazing. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's for me it's fun to. There's so many aspects of it that are fun, and being able to create moods and know that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, like you put on a light and it's red, and director says let's make it blue, it goes to blue.
Yeah.
It's like I thought it looked better red, but they wanted blue.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, it's what's in their head. Let's make it blue. I'm a servant. We're all here to serve what they want to create the product that they want. So that's the whole thing. Coming back to my movie is like, if I want it blue or red, it's gonna be red.
Yeah, that's great. Now talking about different things and taste and all of that, you and I always go back and forth in post about like the software. Like right now you switch to DaVinci.
Yeah.
And you're like an evangelist for DaVinci because you really like it.
Good, yeah.
I'm on the Final Cut train. I really like Final Cut.
I like Final Cut too. I'm not like, I think you said this once before on your story or something, but like, learning different languages is very similar to learning like, Avid, Premiere, Final Cut, DaVinci. It's like French, English, Spanish, Portuguese. It's like you're learning. You're speaking. Or like also driving. Like I can drive a truck. I can drive a car. I can drive a golf cart. I can drive a motorcycle. Mm-hmm. It's like the skills are very similar and they overlap each other.
But no, we have to pick on the podcast. I agree with you, but I love to have the arguments with my friends about like what software is better, what camera is better. So you're at bat for DaVinci. Why should I switch?
Why should you switch from Final Cut Pro to DaVinci? Um, for your First of all, the color is industry standard for color.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to push and pull color or manipulate your overall final look in any other software as good as you can in DaVinci, hands down. Also, the hardware that Blackmagic Design created for the color panels in DaVinci,
Like the
the micro panel, the mini panel, the full-on board console. If you're a full-on colorist, like to be able to push and pull on the wheels and to really dial in your look, no software comes close to that at all.
Yeah.
I don't care how good you are with your little clicky mouse. You don't have the control and precision of the wheels and each one of the tiles.
I will give you that. Like if you're going for full-on professional, like post-house, yes. My challenge with that is...
But also, if you're editing on an airplane, you're not going to have a full console.
You're not, My challenge with that is I can get my look 90% of the way there with my clicky mouse on Final Cut and get it out faster than round tripping. Well, in this case, if I'm using DaVinci, I'm not round tripping.
Yeah, you're still in the software.
Yeah, but how much am I going to really do to that? I guess it goes back to depending on the project. Like for my feature, I did full on color with a colorist in DaVinci. It was like one of the most beautiful experiences of my life.
It's great, yeah.
We had the theater, he had the whole computer. It was a nightmare to get it from Final to DaVinci, and then in DaVinci you export, then you have like a master timeline thing. You can't really
chop it up. Yeah.
You couldn't really chop it up because even if you did that, it's a more complicated process. And then am I going to relink all of that in the timeline? Because it was an hour and a half, I wasn't going to really do that. So then when I had some shots that needed to be trimmed or changed or swapped out, or in QC when we did with Bitmax, when we were doing the QC to send it to Apple, some shots like were wrong. They had like the colorist had added some effects that created some like weird noise pattern. I had to replace that. So it was more complicated, but I love that experience of like pushing with the wheel and getting like really specific. So I give you that. That is really good.
Yeah, that's where it elevates your project. It's an art in itself. That's just one aspect of DaVinci.
Yes. But then the edit page, I can.
Yeah, what issues do you have with this?
It's kind of ugly, and it reminds me of Premiere. It looks very like blocky. I feel like Final Cut is simpler and has less options, but they created something where I can edit faster, and it feels cleaner and like smoother in the interface. With DaVinci, it feels like with the tracks, I'm not a fan of the tracks. Once you go with no track timeline, I think going back to a track timeline, I don't enjoy it as much. And I feel like I'm slower.
Final Cut still has tracks?
If you want them, but I never turn on the tracks. It's just like clips that attach to each other. And it's like, I think that's the beauty of that software.
Yeah.
I don't need to keep mine of tracks, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's the cut page inside of DaVinci.
Yes, which I'm a bit confused still.
Very similar to Final Cut in the way that it works. And that's for exactly what it sounds like, getting a rough cut, you have a ton of footage that you just shot and you have dailies or whatever it is your project is. You went out and shot a bunch of B-roll and you're going to cut together a little select reel of B-roll, and you just need to chop through it really fast, in and out, boom, 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 and throw it all into a real rough cut, and just quickly make an assembly, put a title, export. Like you have something real fast. Even a podcast, if it's multi-cam, something like that, for one camera, two camera, three camera, boom, and just crunch it out in 10 minutes. That's amazing for that.
With the podcast, we're using the Blackmagic switcher, and that's why I'm considering testing DaVinci. My brother is like, you're crazy. You have to like stop changing, because like every time you change a software, and this is the implication. I know everyone wants to say, oh, you should learn this, learn that. I understand when you have spent like 5 years, 10 years on a platform, changing, switching, you lose all your plugins, you lose that quick ability and your speed. And like my brother CJ has that with Premiere. Like he's on Final Cut now, but the other day we were talking about it and he was still saying like he doesn't feel as fast on Final Cut. I think that will come with time. With DaVinci, I do love that they have media, the cut page, the like find edit, then you have your color window.
It forces
your
you
sound.
It forces you to. I have ADD, so for me, it's like I'm able to focus. A lot of people, they're like, okay, I'm cutting. Oh, that's a cool clip. Let me start coloring the clip. Okay, never mind. No.
Yeah.
Let me go back and let me start working on audio. And then they're like all over the place. And for me, it's like, no. Let's import all our media and organize it. Then let's move on. Let's cut a rough cut. Then let's go and edit it and refine it and add. Then let's make some fusion titles and make it like this. Then let's work on our audio and let's make sound effects and everything. Then let's color it. Then let's deliver it and get it out. And you're doing it in passes and you're really focusing in and eliminating all the other tools out of the way. When I'm in the fusion or the Fairlight page and I'm working on audio, everything is away. All I see is audio stuff.
Yeah.
My waveforms are up. My mixer is up. I'm in a full-on editing audio workstation right now.
I give you that. That is like by far my favorite.
When I have 25 tracks of sound effects and music and I'm composing, I don't want to see color wheels. I don't want to see editing track. I don't want to see menus, media pool. I don't want to see the clips.
Yes, that's very accurate.
Yeah.
I think I need to spend more time in it. And I also love the new things. So I love jumping. Like I did DaVinci back when I was in film school. Before they had the cut page, before they had Fairlight, before they had the Fusion even. Like I learned DaVinci and I was grading things. And I was using the color because it's very. For me, color is like the dessert. Like
cherry on top.
Yes, I don't start coloring until I finish my edit.
Yeah,
it's like my reward.
Your meat and potatoes out of the way.
Yes, it's my reward. So that's why I love DaVinci. I just think Final Cut still has a more solid way of doing your keywords. It's way easier for me to find my in and outs and favorite, in and out favorite, because I don't do rough cuts on the timeline anymore. I go through the clips and I do selects and favorites.
Favorites, yeah.
And then I bring the favorites down.
You can do it in DaVinci.
I need to learn how to do that.
You can create smart bins. Smart bins is a way of. It's similar to the way Final Cut works.
Okay, they've been copying.
They've taken. It's all the same.
They're taking, but DaVinci, they are taking from everybody.
A Toyota does this. Oh, Honda also has this feature. It's not like only the software has it.
I think DaVinci is trying to become like the Tesla of editing software because they are trying to bring everything into one. If they are able to, maybe they go and buy CapCut and bring in all those like little titles and animations and little things into that to create social. I think where Apple really did something amazing, everyone shit on them for going the prosumer route with the first version of Final Cut X being kind of more like iMovie with a little more features.
I never thought that. I thought it was pretty.
But that's what the editing community thought because they were coming from Final Cut 7 and Avid, and then Apple. I think they were able to see ahead. 10 years ago, the editing software was just for people who were working in like big projects. Nowadays, every Instagram influencer, every YouTuber, every person making content, like my son is editing his YouTube videos and like I taught him Final Cut and he can do it and he's 8. So they went ahead to create something kind of simple that serves the masses instead of creating something super specific and strong like an Avid or even DaVinci. And I think DaVinci and Blackmagic now they're going that same route where they're adding a lot of things to DaVinci to make it a more versatile tool instead of just a coloring thing that does a little bit of editing.
Oh no, it's a very powerful, full-on NLE. It's not just color.
Now, how do you feel about all of these companies kind of competing? And in this case, DaVinci, they have the camera and they have the software. They also have all of these broadcast tools
On the
that
hardware,
we use. Yeah, so I think they're really solid. But at the same time, I don't think they can compete with Apple in terms of the hardware integration and even making the software in a way that is cleaner and like future proof and more versatile. I tried DaVinci with my feature film and it couldn't handle all that footage. I tried with Premiere, it couldn't like handle all of that. Maybe it was my, and I had a computer. Now that computer is super old. It's the little MacBook Pro trash can. When I used Final Cut, I was able to cut through the whole movie. It still got a little like bogged down towards the end when the libraries were growing. So I didn't do proper data management. I should have done.
That's another thing is all these other softwares, they have a library file or like a project file, and that can go anywhere, all over. It can be in this hard drive, it can be over there. It's really unorganized. DaVinci, every time you create a new project, they're all in the same spot inside of the program. You never lose your project. It's right there. You open it up and you choose which project you're going to pick to start off with, and all of those live in the same library file right there together. It's not like, oh, this is on that hard drive, and then this is on the other hard drive that I'm working on, and this is in my email, and it's like all over the place. It's like when I come to sit down and I work in DaVinci, first thing that pops up is which program am I in, which project am I going to start cutting, and they're all laid out in front of me, and it's real easy to export those and send it off to someone else that is working. Or also with Blackmagic Cloud, you can collaborate and you can add projects to that, so other people could be working on the color while you're doing the cut. And it's just really organized. Whereas like I remember with the libraries of Final Cut, having to, when I was collaborating, I used to work in an editing at a studio, and we had a server, but we would transfer all the projects back over onto the server to match up with all of the online edits. There's offline edits, online edits. We'd match them back up with the project files. And it was like, if you didn't, you have to like show content, it would open up the project file. If you didn't have everything in there in the same structure, it's like your project wouldn't open properly, media would be offline, things like that. And it's like, with DaVinci, it's just so much easier to like hand off your footage to other editors, or, it's just packaged better.
Well, I definitely have to try it more and play with it. But I don't know. I think going back to specializing on things, if you follow that concept, then maybe I don't need to spend so much time on editing. I think.
Yeah, unless you are only an editor.
Yeah. What do you think about this? Because a lot of the times we see everyone being so good at everything that we want to edit, we want to shoot, we want to direct, we want to produce, like we want to do it, all of it. Sometimes I feel like we should do less horizontal and less broad and maybe more specific and only focus on that one thing. What's your take on that?
I actually made a couple of videos about this topic, where it's like the same thing as, the people who, like I said about the ACs, camera assistants, the reason I call them is because they're very specialized. They have a camera card, they have all of the specific tools that an AC would need, they have the knowledge of the different hand units and focus motors, and they know how to calibrate my monitors or whatever it is, and that's all they do every day. Every job they go on, they're using the same tools, or they're learning the same things, and they don't know anything about producing, but get that monitor set up, they got you. Like balance the camera, oh, I'm on it. That's their thing. They stay working because of it. Or the editor too. If you are just an editor, you got all your hotkeys dialed in. You got your plugins. You got your monitor. You got your sound. You have your workflow of how to, import and export and deliver to your clients, and you are dialed in. You're a ninja at editing. Whereas like the guy who, I have a project, I only edit every 2 weeks or so. Whereas you're that guy like in the edit cave all day, you are locked in. It's like muscle memory. You can be sleeping and editing. You become so good at it. or any job that you're doing, right? You're a gaffer, you're on your iPad, you start to just, know how to work your lights without even looking at them. It's like you're so dialed, or like you're a producer, like you can make a call sheet in your sleep. You don't even need to copy paste, send it out, email, whatever it is. Oh, lunch order, anything that you need to like be doing repetitive because you're so it's like, for me, if I had to make a call sheet, I would be like, oh my God. Yeah, and some people are laughing like, a call sheet, bro, that's really not a big deal. But to me, I never make call sheets, so that would be like, I'd have to go Google it. or find a template.
For sure. Now, how do you feel about now that you said Google it, how do you feel about film school versus like traditional going and learning and paying all this money? Like, is it worth it? What was your experience? I never asked you about this. Did you ever went to film school or anything like that?
No, never went to like a special film school. After my high school was like a film school. So my high school was one of the top in the nation for high school level media production. So we were very advanced, and my parents kind of saw like when I was younger that I had like this, I was drawn to like work in film. I love photography. I love motion pictures.
If you had to do it again, would you consider going to a proper film school here in LA, or would you just come out and start working?
To do it again, I don't know. It depends on your financial situation, I would say. If you can afford it, then yeah, I see that there's a benefit in it to get you quickly up to speed. Yeah, definitely. And also networking. I see that as a huge thing, is being able to come up with a class full of people that all want to do the same things, and maybe you have different specialties. But like I said, filmmaking is a team sport. So if you're able to learn and get into a pool of upcoming individuals that are all going to come out into the industry, and now you've got like 20, 30 people that you have their phone number or Facebook friends with, that this person became a producer, and this guy became a key grip, and this guy became whatever. And now we're all buddies because we've been in school for so long, you're all here at the same level. Whereas like if you're just coming in and breaking in, maybe you don't meet these people, or you meet one, but you don't meet
20
everyone in their class that's all working. So that's a benefit, I would say. And also a lot of film school students, I was talking to a DP about this, is like that when you come out of film school, like you are like so eager to work, and you're like a robot. Not in a bad way, but you're like, your stuff, whatever you took a cinematography class, you took a lighting class. It's like, your stuff really well, but you have no experience. you have simulated experience, but and you're book smart about it, but you haven't applied it yet, So these people are really good at what they do from like a technical aspect sense of it, but they don't have like the interpersonal skills, and they don't quite understand the flow of how a production day goes quite yet. They understand it because they've learned how it goes, but they've never been through it enough times to get the feel of it yet. So that's like but that can come, But they're good. They're like little film worker robots. So it's a good like head start if you can afford to go to film school. I'd say my path was not that. My path was like going to the high school program and learning in the green screen, learning Final Cut, DHS is like a old before Avid. Used to edit on tapes and that kind of thing, and I learned the green screen, the photography, and live switching, almost like what we're doing today. So I learned a lot of that stuff when I was like really young, 16, 17, 18. Out of high school, I was like into working in the news. So it was like quick turnaround. I'd go out, shoot some B-roll, and then I'd come back, 5 o'clock, I'd have to edit it all together and get a story up on the news by 5 o'clock. So quick turnaround, like run and gun, sort of guerrilla filmmaking, And now it's kind of a jack of all trades too, because you go out by yourself. You need to learn about lighting, sound. You're one-man crew, and you go out and you get the story. You're the director, and
you're everything.
Yeah, you're everything. So I learned those skills, and then as I started to work more professionally, you start to work with crews and understand how to communicate with these people and what they do and how they can elevate your project, and delegate some of that to them, which is good. It takes some off your plate,
Cool. Well, Scott, thank you so much, man, for coming on the show.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, click on this other episode. You're really going to love it. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.